Hi, I'm Daryl. I'm building Oktant, an operating system for self-actualization to help people thrive. This is episode 1 of my Build-in-Public journey, and it starts with the basics, a simple MVP landing page. Today I'm going to take you behind the scenes of my Firebase Studio setup and reveal the next steps for the full app build-out. In this build video, I'm going to take you through how I set up the static Oktant website, which is a simple web page. A header describes the 8-slice framework that underpins Oktant. A calibrator, which is literally just some sliders where you can configure your live slices, which then update on this radar chart just below. And then finally, a call to action to register some beta user interest, as well as showcasing a little bit around the navigator's interface. This is just some Gemini renderings of what it could look like, busy with the wireframes at the moment. So all of this was set up. The initial scaffold was actually set up in about 5 minutes with Firebase Studio. Just to jump across and have a look at what that is. Google released this a couple of years ago as Project IDX, which then became Firebase Studio last year. And it is pretty much a all-encompassing IDE, including agentic integration, so you can actually get started really, really quickly with building in a very modern development style. So I would definitely recommend this for some simple use cases so far that I've tested. I'm going to see how far it takes me with a broader build of the actual application. But for the static website, it was actually really, really good. So when you log into Firebase Studio, you're presented with this interface that allows you to enter a prompt for the app that you're looking to generate. In my case, I had iterated the whole concept of Oktant separately with Gemini, and I even asked it to create the prompt that I would feed into Firebase Studio to help me get started. After you've entered your application prompt, you're taken to the prototype view in Firebase Studio. So what this gives you is an application preview on the left, and then the conversational interface for you to continue your build with Gemini on the right. One of the first things that you do is you approve an application blueprint. So this is the plan of the application that you're looking to build. In Oktant's case, that took probably about 5 minutes for me to get that project scaffolded. And after that, I was pretty much ready to build. After I'd reviewed the web page that was generated, I used a combination of describing changes using the full application context on the bottom right, or by using the selector tool to actually go and fine-tune specific components and elements and describing those changes in line. So I found that quite intuitive in terms of being able to actually navigate the prototype interface and make changes as I go. For some of the more complex components like the calibrator, I actually used my separate Gemini instance to help me craft the prompt. So you'll see an example here where it's actually quite detailed in terms of what's being created and how it ties into some other features. The navigator's interface was a good example of where things can go wrong, even if you have a very clear prompt. So in this case, I had a loading shimmer that just wouldn't disappear even if the images were loaded. So I had to work through a couple of iterations with Gemini to try and resolve this particular problem and get it right. But regardless, it was still a lot faster than if I would have built it myself, even if I did have to go and tweak it just a little bit to get it right. So there was one point of frustration while working with Firebase Studio, but it wasn't really because of the IDE itself. It was more the classic kind of peer dependency issue of upgrading a package based on the recommendation, actually. So I went through several iterations of this before I actually reverted it back to the last working version. And I took down some of the quips from Gemini as it was trying to fix this on each iteration. So as an example, talking about tackling dependency hell, pinpointing the culprit, talking about several final versions that were never final, kind of empathizing with me being right and understanding my frustration, talking about unraveling the dependency maze, and my personal favorite where it talked about, well, the error is mocking me at this point. I think it was at that point that I actually reverted back the code just to get it working again. But overall, I think the actual experience working with the prototype interface was really, really good. And I'll switch across to the code view so you can get a view of what that looks like as well. So here we are in the Firebase Studio code interface. If it looks a bit like VS Code, it's because it is a fork of the Code OSS project. So you'll get a lot of the similar features out the box. This is the default layout that it comes in. So what you get is a preview again on the right. You've got an output log of your server and what's happening. You've got some good features in terms of being able to actually just engage and reload your web page as you're developing. In fact, it's also got things like hot reload. So if I were to change some of the text or some of the componentry on my website, I would actually be able to reload that on the fly. It's also got things around being able to do things like lighthouse tests. You've got your Gemini console on the right as well. And yeah, ultimately, it gives you a lot more flexibility and freedom in terms of making those types of manual changes and edits as compared to integrate or leveraging the prototype view. You've, of course, still got the ability to go and make specific changes using Gemini on any specific selection of code as you're developing as well. So I think all in all, quite a good interface in terms of being able to engage and develop. And I've used this quite extensively in terms of being able to also develop the Oktant web page that I've taken you through today. The last bit to talk through is just how easy it is to publish your application through Firebase Studio. So to do that, you click the publish button on the top right. And what they'll do is kick off an actual build process to actually make sure that the app doesn't have any specific errors, and they'll deploy into a GCP environment that is then configured for your use. There is some terms and conditions around being able to set that up. But the simplicity is you'll literally get a publicly listed URL for your application that you can then wire in your own specific domain to. So I've, of course, connected this to my octant.app domain. And you can also jump in and review things like error logs, etc., in the Firebase backend as well. So there's quite a lot of different options in terms of being able to understand and configure this, which I think can get quite technical if you are new to this as an environment. But overall, quite simple to get started and just start working your way through it in terms of understanding how everything works. But yeah, overall, very simple experience. And I mean, if you were really motivated to get it going, I think you could probably get a new website running within an afternoon and have it serving traffic to an actual user base. So guys, thank you very much for watching this first Build-in-Public video series for the Oktant beta. Our next step is to develop the wireframes for the actual application and get that tested with our founding users. Just as an update there, we're about 50% complete with signups to our 100 founding user list. So if you've liked this video or like what we're doing, please register your interest for the beta, and I hope to see you on the platform soon. Thanks again. Cheers.